This is Nel Kooijman, my friend and business partner of the Hanemaakmakers, our Amsterdam store.
They are inviting me.
En dan de applicaties maken. Net tussen en dan. En dan deze. After our small trip to Amsterdam, we're back home again to work on the second part of our mystery quilt. We will fill up the empty space of the mariner's compass with circles, hexagons, hearts, French lilies, hexagon stars, and on the four edges we will applique triangles, as well as we will put some circles on the corners. These are the new fabrics for part 2. The stripe will be for around the center, a border print. These will be used for the French lilies, the hearts, the hexagons, and this little old fabric you can use for a middle part of the long hexagon flower. For the triangles, I'm using the reds, and these reds from part 1. For the hexagons, I use this blue and this blue, but you can use whatever you like for any of the appliques. It's your choice and it will be your quilt. You need to make 24 1-inch circles for the center, 16 for around the mariner's compass and 2 for each corner. Then we need 4 1 1/8 circles. Let's make the circles. I'll have the plastic Karen K. Buckley circle, the perfect circle. I put it on my fabric and I draw a line like this, and I cut it out with a not too small seam allowance. To cut out my circles, I'm using my perfect scissors from Karen K. Buckley with a fine milled edge. It's really wonderful to cut smaller pieces because the fabric doesn't slide away. And you see, a perfect circle is cut. I'll take my 1-inch paper piece from Paper Pieces and glue it on my circle. I'll have a needle with a double thread like this, slide it away, and I'm going to baste all around the edge of my circle. Here you can see came back to where I started. I have my 2 threads and I'll pull the threads around the paper. Because the thread is double, I can pull hard without breaking the thread. As you can see, I have a perfect circle. Applique on your circles exactly in the middle of your seam where you put in your mariner's compass, leaving the papers in and leaving the thread. After you applique them on, you take your thread, you pull it out. That's why you had the long threads hanging. Turn around your fabric, take a seam ripper or whatever, or fine scissors, make a slide in your fabric and take out your paper. And your circle is perfect. We're going to applique triangles on the four sides of our center. I used red fabrics to do that in different shades. We need freezer paper, and I used this little tracing wheel. I draw the triangle on a strip I cut off from my freezer paper, and I'm going to fold it like this to get a little pile. And then I staple it like this. I take paper scissors and I cut out the triangles, remove the staples, and I have my pile of triangles, and so I make 24. Iron on your triangles of the fabric of your choice and cut them out with 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. I'm using my tracing wheel and a soft surface, and I'm going to trace along my freezer paper. As you can see, that it folds out of itself already over the freezer paper. I'm going to use my guideline and pin on 3 triangles to one side and 3 triangles to the other side. I leave the freezer paper in, take my glue pen and glue them on there where I want them. I'm appliquing them on, and I remove the freezer paper. And my triangles are perfectly appliqued on the background. Let's make the hexagon flowers and the hexagon stars. To make them, we need 20 pieces of 5 1/8 inch hexagon papers and 12 pieces of 5 1/8 inch jewel papers. Let's make the 2 hexagons. This one is random cut from the blue fabric with this as a fussy cutted center. This one I fussy cut it from the royal blue fabric with the middle of the dark brown with the odd blue dot. To fussy cut you need more fabric. You need 6 images every time, and you can make a choice from your fabric to find the 6 images. What you can do as well is do it like this and this and this, and then you will need 3 of each. For the outside I just took a small blue flower. We have made our hexagon flowers and our hexagon stars, and we are going to applique them on to our background using the guidelines we draw or we baste it. After appliquing, we cut our background fabric and take our hexagon papers out, and our jewels, of course. Then we're going to applique the circles on to the background in the 4 corners. Our last applique step is to put on the 4 French lilies and the 8 little hearts. For this I'm using freezer paper, my tracing wheel and tracing mat. I have cut out from the freezer paper my shape, ironed it on the background, cut it out with seam allowance, and then, as we did with the triangles, I trace along the freezer paper. And again, it folds already around the freezer paper for the right shape. The same I'm doing with the small hearts. I applique the lilies on using the line I traced, or I based it, whatever you did, as a guide. Put my lilies on, and on each side of the lily I put a small heart. I turn my fabric, cut in the background, and take the freezer paper out, and all your appliques are finished. After you have appliqued on all your pieces, iron your center and cut it into a 30.5 inch square. We're going to put a 2-inch border around our center. In your kit you found this 55 by 130 centimeters piece of Indian Rhapsody stripe. In inches it will measure 22 inch by 51 inch. When you cut this fabric you have to be very careful. In total you will need 8 borders. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now what we do first is we're going to cut the whole piece over the length in the middle through, between the 4th and the 5th border, right in the middle, so that we have 2 pieces. 1 piece we lay aside. This will be used in the quilt later, and this I'm going to show you how to cut it. From the other half we cut a 38 inch piece. From this piece we are going to cut our 2.5 inch wide borders. We cut them here and here and here and here. The border will look like this. We're going to sew the 4 borders around our centerpiece, mitering the corners, and our centerpiece, including seam allowance, will measure now 34.5 inch square. Your part 2 of the mystery quilt is finished.